Thank you very much, dear Theodore, for your introduction. I am very happy that I can be here today. I've been unwell in the last few days, but thankfully my body has regenerated enough so that I can do something with you. I would like to give you tools, exercises, to give you something, tools with which you can find a connection or strengthen the connection you have with your body, deepen this connection, and maybe also change it. This was also what I wanted to do in the last session, and I would like to briefly repeat the exercises we did. We ended with the basic tone. This basic tone is an exercise from tone eurythmy. And each of us has this tone, this basic tone. It changes depending on our mood, depending on our state. But we will simply try to express this basic tone in eurythmy. I'll step back so you can see my feet. We either can be in a mood where we want to go somewhere, we want to achieve something. For instance, if in the morning the sun rises and we wake up, the day is waiting for us, then this mood can come up of this wanting to get going, and we can sense that in our feet by trying to very strongly feel into our heels, and then out of the heel go towards the toes with our feeling. So we do what we also do when we take a step forward, that we move from the heel towards the toes. So I would invite you to do this. Take a few steps back, feel the ground, and then out of the strength of your heel, move forward in such a way that you start with your left foot and then you move to the right foot forward so that the feeling moves from the heel into the toes. And the other way around. I also might want to arrive with me, that in the evening I come home and I want to come into a calm state. I want to enjoy this calmness. And we'll try and feel this by taking a step back first with our right foot, roll it down to the backwards, and then we invite the other foot to do the same. We can do this again. I step back with my right foot and I invite the left foot to do the same. We can try it the other way around. Again, I come from the heel, step forward into the toes. If I now want to take my arms along in this exercise so that they resonate with this basic sound, that the arms become light when I move from the heel into the toes, then we can try first to take the shoulders with us, the collarbones. I first go from left to right and then unfold my arms so that first of all, I feel the lower arm, how that gets lighter, and then the upper arm, the hands and the fingers. They become very light. And then from there, once the arms are light, I can start with the feet again and take a step back with my feet, roll over the foot, the right foot, and then I invite the left foot to close, and then I feel into my arms. What does this do to my arms when I move the feet backwards? I feel my upper arms, how the upper arm comes closer, then lower arm and hands and fingers. If we try this again, doing this exercise from the top down, I use both arms straight away. It's more harmonious. And I'll move both arms. So I start again with the feet, move backwards, slowly rolling over into the heel. Then I feel into my arms, upper arm, which is most often wants to come down most quickly. Then lower arms, upper arms, hands, and fingers. Until I really arrive with my arms right by my body. And then we can loosen this again from the heels into the toes, from left to right. And then repeat again with the feet so that I really feel I'm really in my feet. Go from the left side into the right, left collarbone, right collarbone. My lower arms become light. I can play with the lower arms a bit. This movement of the lower arms, inward, outward, and upper arms. We take them along the lower arms, hands and fingers, that they become really light, as if they weren't there at all. And I can lightly pull my hands back and reach the octave. And if I start with the feet again now, roll over backwards with my foot, with the left foot as well, then the upper arms, lower arms, upper arms, hands, fingers coming close to my body until they are really close to it. Then we let this exercise resonate for a moment. I just change the camera slightly. So I listen into my body, what it feels like after this movement. How is our breath? How is it with the warmth? Where do I feel warmth? Are there places which are warmer or others that are colder? This is a simple, short exercise that can help to arrive with our feeling in the body, that we feel where something is streaming or where it isn't, or where something starts flowing through this exercise. Or maybe with this exercise, one might feel things that one might have forgotten or that one usually doesn't feel so strongly. Very good. Then we will come to the eurythmy sounds, B, ow, and S, which last time I also talked about. The B in the alphabet has the quality of enveloping and also of relating something to oneself. For instance, if I turn to my upper arm and I say, "Dear upper arm, you are mine," and I can touch it in various places, that's B. If I do it more gently by not relating the upper arm to myself, but just feel it with my hand. How does that feel? When I very gently come closer to the arm, that I begin to perceive something from this movement as it comes closer. Does something arrive in the upper arm on the one hand? Or on the other hand, do I feel that something comes towards me in my hand? V, I have this sound. And when I ask myself now, dear upper arm, what do you like best? How would you like best to be touched? How do I then have to approach it? Then there is more a searching for the form of the movement which is in this upper arm. I can see how is it if I come from here or if I come from here, which feels more pleasant. So that would be a concrete way of turning to my body with these sounds, with these three sounds, if I use them as a kind of tool. Today, I would like to take the sound M and move it with you. You can either have create a bit more space around you. You can also do it sitting down or standing up. I will remain seated for now. The M, for that we can take one hand. I use my right hand. And with this hand, we feel our way into our surroundings and back again to myself. So I have two directions. I go outwards and back to myself. And we change one using the right hand, the left hand, different directions outward, then turning the hand and move it back to me so that the hand looks towards me. And now I use the other hand outward and back to myself. If I have somebody opposite me, a real person, and I take my right hand, move towards this other person, what side do I reach of that person? How is it if I take my left hand, move towards a person opposite me? This can help to be able to think oneself into the position who is opposite us. If I take my right hand, move towards that person, I reach their left side. If I take my left hand, move towards this person, I arrive at their right side. Now I want to pretend that I myself am the other person opposite me, that I address myself in a way as if I were, I myself were opposite myself. Then I also, if I take my right hand, move it forward, I would arrive at my left side and the other way around. If I move my right hand towards this person, which is myself, I would arrive at the right side. Now we try with both hands from the top, starting with the head on the other person, which is me. I try to meet myself. I I let my hands move down from the top down along this person. And up again. And if I carefully, with my palm, move along the surface, the outer surface of that opposite person, if I go along the surface, then at some point my hands turn around. And when I move up, the hands turn again and go upwards. And we try with the shoulders and upper arms to do this activity, and the hands just feel, sense. When do the hands turn? What does that feel like? Also, when there we go to the pelvis, and we reach down to the bottom and up again, all the way up, and maybe at the top as well, right up to the top of the head. Stroke this whole form. Let the hands run down this form all along. And then we let go for a moment. Listen inside ourselves. What does my body feel like now? If we now, maybe it's best if you sit down for this. If we now turn to the pelvic floor, and first of all, with one hand, feel the pelvic floor, and maybe we can feel with the V very carefully. And how is it if I move a bit forward? How is it when I move further back? Very gently, we feel with our hand. And this is the basis for this exercise, that we start from the pelvic floor and then we try to let the whole body resonate from there, so that with our hands, with what we move when we resonate through our own self, that we build up the whole body from below, that it is filled with this resonance. For this, we need the form of an 8. If we do the M, we have this movement that goes outward and inward, to and fro. And if we now try to add the S to this M, then we get the form of an 8, of a lemniscate. And this lemniscate we can also rediscover in the pelvic floor if we turn to the pelvic floor again and look for the middle. So this is my own pelvic floor. And now I can, from the center of the pelvic floor, I can, around the anus at the back and in the front, around the genitals, I can form an 8. So I start in the middle and I form this 8 so that if I do the back circle, I start towards the right from my point of view. And so in the front, the other way around. And now I let this 8 move upwards. I do a second 8 that is slightly higher. Then I do a third 8, even higher. A fourth 8 that slowly wanders upwards. And with the fifth 8, I then turn my hand slowly around so that during the whole of the 8, it turns once and is facing down. And the sixth 8, and right at the top, the 7th. so that now I've arrived at the top of my head, at the crown, and with this person opposite me, which is myself, I feel with my hand, I listen. How is it when I'm there at the top of the head? And from there, I slowly move the eights down again in the same direction, moving it downwards. I start going to the right, uh, then move on like this, and the second eight is a bit lower, third eight, fourth eight, and again with the fifth eight, I turn slowly. I turn my hand slowly for the whole of the eighth, that the palm of the hand is facing upwards again. Then the sixth eight and the seventh eight. And with the seventh eight, I arrive at my pelvic floor again. Feel how it feels there now. And then slowly, gently take my hand back. Now I have a movement that I do outside of myself, where I address myself, and then afterwards, then I can listen to the resonance of that exercise. What does it feel like in me, in my body? We can repeat this once more, moving through the whole body with the 7 eights going down, going up and going down. And then once more, we listen again. I begin again with my right hand at the bottom. I feel with my hand very gently from the pelvic floor, and then I move this 8 towards the back and to the front. First 8, second 8, a bit higher. The third 8, fourth 8, fifth 8. Then I turn my hand now downward. Sixth 8 and the seventh 8. And I arrive at the crown of the head. And there I stop a moment. What does it feel like there? And then I move my hand down again. First 8, second 8, third, fourth. With the fifth, we turn our hand again, slowly turning. The sixth 8, and right at the bottom, the seventh. And gently pull our hand back. Now, if we look at the pelvic floor, we don't have the eighth only from the front and back, but we also have it from the left to the right. So we can add a second eight that we let rise up and let it go down again. That's an eight between left and right. For that, I would like to invite you again to start once more. I'll show it so that you can see it from the front. Move your hand gently under the pelvic floor. Now, if I have myself opposite, then I can move between left and right. There's also an eight. Again, I can first move to the side, to the right, and then to the left. And if I say right, that's with the person opposite me, it is left. But I still speak from my point of view to make it simpler. So I go to the right in space, the first eight, and again, starting when I do the left side, I go from left to right. So half an eighth to the left and half to the right, and a bit higher, the second eight. Then the third, the fourth, and with the fifth, I turn the hand upside down again and move the eight, the sixth, and the seventh eight until I reach the top of my head. And there I hold for a moment, and then I move down again, but in the same direction to the seven eighths, the second, now the third, the fourth. With the fifth, I slowly turn my hand. The sixth, and the seventh. And here I feel, what does this feel like? Pelvic floor. And then withdraw my hand gently. And then listen again. Feel into the body what is happening between left and right, between above and below, front and back. Is something arriving of what we've done? Let's do this one again too. Beginning at the bottom, and then we do move between left and right. Let the eights rise up. Again, we look for the middle. Gently start with the the V, with our hand. We feel this. And then with the first eight, clockwise for the first half, And then the second 8 a bit higher, the third 8 even higher, fourth 8, the fifth 8. Then I turn my hand while I'm doing this 8, I turn my hand slowly. Then I get to the 6th 8, to the 7th, right to the top, but until I reach the top of the head. And from there, I go slowly down in the same direction. First 8, the second, third, the fourth, and with the fifth 8, I turn my hand round. Sixth 8, and the seventh. And here I hold it for a moment, and then again, very gently pull my hand back. If we now listen into this exercise once more, the 2 8s, from the pelvic floor, rising up, going down again. And now we look and we listen. What does it feel like in me? How is it with my warmth? What happens? How is your breath? Calm or excited? Where does it flow to? What is the relation between front and back, between left and right? Between top and bottom? Very good. So this is an exercise with which we can fill the whole body with sound. Oh, it's like a balm that we offer to the whole body with this movement. It's a very friendly and gentle moving through the body. And if we then walk through the world, then these 8s they always start to swing. They swing along when we walk. If you try and pay attention to that when after this session today, maybe when you walk around this evening, what does it feel like? What do these relationships feel like between left and right, top and bottom? Does this whole column of sound, does it start to swing, to resonate? If you have questions, I'm looking forward to answering them. Thank you very much, Valentin, for this wonderful path that you walked with us. We have a number of lovely questions, and I would like to jump the queue because I have a question too. My question is, with the sound, if you explain it, I don't know. Do I do it right? What is right? What is clockwise? Now, how bad is it if I do it wrong? Well, that isn't really that bad. It doesn't matter so much. What matters is that a feeling arises for this. And if I do it first in the other direction, it doesn't matter. I can also do it in the other direction and see, what does that feel like? What does it feel like when I do it in one direction? What does it feel like when I do it in the other direction? And what is important to me is that you can develop a feeling for what is right for me, so that it can, yeah, if this feels right for me, but then I can also try do it the other way around. I think the directions are not so essential with the aids. It's similar to when we fold our hands. Um, we do it naturally one way. We can do it the other way, but it feels a bit unfamiliar. But you can do it both ways. Thank you, Valentin. So you can be relaxed. You can't do it wrong. First try and get into it, and then, yeah, you can find your way gradually and compare your own experiences with what you've just heard, if I understood you rightly. Yes. So Apine asks, what is this exercise called, and when is it best to use this magic? Alpine asked this question. Yeah, this exercise has a name, or hasn't got a name. We can call it the pelvic floor exercise, or in the pelvic floor, we have this sacred place, this sacral area, where we also have the root chakra, and that has 4 leaves. It also has, like the 2 eights, has this form. And I think we can call it the pelvic floor exercise. Yeah. I haven't found a better name for it yet. Maybe one of you can find a good name. Yes, in the chat, write down. Just bring some suggestions for Valentin. one important point with the sounds of M and S, if for involving them, this maybe could also be part of the name. Can you show again where in the 8 is the M and where is the S? The M, I have this movement that goes outward and back to me where I turn my hand around. And with the S, I tried to show it with this question, how would you prefer it that I approach the form of my upper arm, for instance, or any other part of the body, lower arm, hand, or in nature with any leaf? I could ask, how would you like to be touched? And then I approach what has formed or brought about this form, the movement behind the form, as it were, and to feel that that is the S. And there I have this gentle, supple moving through the air of my whole arm. That is an S. And if I combine it with the M, I have this lemniscate very beautifully. Thank you, Valentin. Oh, and then there was a second question. Where would I use this? This exercise I would always use when somebody had a shock or something that somehow paralyzes me inwardly, or somehow has taken away my mobility, maybe an injury or a bad accident where I can't move, for instance, then this is also an exercise that I can do very carefully sitting down. And also in anytime when we are rigid, when we can't move, well, then this is a good possibility to nonetheless get a flowing through this body going, something that happens normally when we go for a walk. Maybe just one comment. Alina wrote, for you it was really difficult to start with the pelvic floor, with the pelvis. Of course, we talked about that before, because it is, tricky, but it's important. This is I, and the other principle is always to do it very carefully and feel if it's okay, and if it doesn't work, to leave it, or we look how we can transform it. So thank you for pointing this out. And of course, and thank you again, Valentin, that you did this so mindfully and showed so clearly what you meant. And we sort of rely on you that you work mindfully with it as well. Syrian wrote, asks, why do we turn the hand at number 5, and why on the way up and down it's at a different place? That's a good question. I have tried in doing first the exercise in such a way that we let our hands slide down, that I become aware of where do I naturally turn my hands round when I go from the top down, or the other way around when I go up. At some point, I have to turn my hands. And if I now do these 7 steps, then also as something, something musical, that I have this sound body, and then I could say, I have 7 intervals. And with the 5, it is the fifth, and the fifth always has to do with turning round. That's something maybe, yeah, that might take you aback a bit if I say the fifth in music always has to do with turning round, but it is also physiologically, if we come to the fifth, we come to our hand, and the hand has this capacity of turning something round. So I wander upwards with those 5 steps until this turnaround happens at the fifth level, and with the 5, and at the same way down, there are 2 different paths. The one is that I enter, go down, and there it's at a different place. This point of turning is a different place from when I move upwards. You can try and live with that maybe, and deal with it, work with it. Thank you. Judith asks, would you ever use both hands at the same time? And if yes, why and when? I would use both hands. I would try it. I would also try it with the left hand. And if one wants to do it in a more complicated way, one can try and do it with both hands together. And then I would do it in such a way that I start with one hand at the top and with the other hand at the bottom. Maybe just show us the beginning, Valentin. So if I begin at the top and at the bottom, I would do it in the opposite direction. That I come slowly down with my one hand, and with the other hand, I slowly go up. That's of course then interesting when you come closer and closer with the 2 hands. And then I would, again, when I get to the 5, I would slowly turn it around. So that's more complicated, but it's also fun trying to do this and practicing it, and then go the same way back. Thank you, Valentin. That was very good to see. The last 2 questions I will bring together. One question is, why the 8? And I thought, yeah, if after the 7, the hand rests, that is the quality of the 8. So there is an 8. Valentin, is that true? Yes. Then I go on to the next question. Of course, one can say much more about everything. One question here is, or 2 questions in one. Can you do that with a stroke? And the other question is, do you do this exercise alone by yourself, or do you sit in front of another person? That wasn't quite clear. So do you do it alone or with 2 people? Well, the way I just showed the exercise, you do it for yourself alone. So I really pretend that I sit opposite myself, that I face myself. that's the approach that I can use for this exercise. And that's the way I also like to teach it to others. If you do it for yourself, say, if as a patient or if as a therapist you have a relationship of trust with the patient where you can do it for the patient, that is also possible. Then you can do it for somebody else. And with a stroke, can you use it then? Yeah, definitely. You can do it also, yeah, with a stroke. Then that when people are often paralyzed after a stroke, and to bring a flowing back and bringing the body together again, for that you can use it very well. So the exercise has this effect that I feel myself as one again. Thank you very much, Valentin. The question, of course, is always how do you do it in such a case? And that's an invitation to all of you. We show you a principle and how you then use this and when you use it and how you adjust it. That needs your own inner feeling and your inner voice